Hello everyone. In this ancient and medieval adventures camp video, we are going to be learning about the tradition of shadow plays in Asia. In this video, we will learn what shadow puppets are and how they can be made, how Asian shadow puppets differ from other shadow puppet traditions, where Asian shadow play might have originated and where it is practiced, and what purpose shadow play serves in Asian folk tradition. Let's get started. You may already be familiar with one particular kind of shadow puppet, finger puppets. This kind of shadow puppet is made by using one's hands. To make finger puppets, a light will be placed to shine in front of the location, usually a wall, where the puppets are meant to appear. The light will be turned on, and when someone holds their hands up in a particular shape, the shadow projected onto the wall by the light will become a shadow puppet. Shadow puppets like this are usually used to tell a story using animal figures. Birds, woodland creatures, and even pets can be created using simple hand formations and a flashlight. Here are some different shadow puppets that you can try. Which ones are you able to make look like real animals? Pause this video, grab a flashlight, and try out some of these shapes now. The shadow puppetry and shadow plays that come from Asia are quite different from this version of shadow puppetry, however. The ancient practice of shadow play, called Mayang, was a storytelling tradition that was practiced all throughout Asia, but especially in China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Cambodia. Asian-style shadow puppetry also made its way around the world to places like Turkey and Egypt. Evidence of Mayang shadow play can be traced back to at least 2,000 years ago in the 1st century CE, or Common Era. However, the origins of shadow play are said to be even earlier, and the location in which it was started is still debated. The two most common countries from which Mayang may have originated are China and India. The Chinese origin can be traced back to a passage in the Records of the Grand Historian that tells the story of Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty from the 2nd century BCE. The story tells of a gentleman of methods, Shao Wang, who used mysterious methods to create a moving image of Emperor Wu's lost love. Historians believe that this story refers to the use of shadow play to make the image of the woman appear. Others believe that shadow play originated in India because one common story that is told through shadow play throughout Asia is the ancient Indian epic of the Ramayana. The Ramayana tells the life story of the legendary Prince Rama, recounting his travels with his wife Sita and his brother Lakshmana during his 14 years of exile from and return to his home kingdom. Shadow puppet versions of this epic were popular in places like Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, leading to the belief that shadow play might have traveled to these countries from India. In Asian tradition, shadow puppets are made by shining a light from behind an object rather than in front of it. Instead of using hands, movable puppets are made to tell the story. Special screens are made to project the shadowy figures onto, so when the light is turned on, larger, shadowy versions of the figures are projected onto the screen for all to see. Let's take a closer look at how these special screens and puppets are made. A variety of different kinds of shadow puppets are used in Asian shadow play. The puppets can be big or small, and in some regions they are static, but in others the puppets will have moving limbs. The bodies and limbs of these puppets are most often operated using small sticks that a puppeteer will use to make the figures move. Asian shadow puppets were traditionally made out of leather, but some countries, like China, use delicate parchment paper instead. Often, like in these pictures, the puppets would have small holes cut into them to allow the light to shine through in interesting places. Many of these shadow puppets were made in dark brown or black, but some, particularly those in Chinese tradition, will include bright colors that show up when the light shines on them. Although there are many variations on how these shadow puppets looked, one thing they all have in common is that they are puppets held behind a screen to cast shadows rather than being moved in front of a screen like in a traditional puppet show. This means that it was very important to use the right material for puppet screens. Screens were made out of different materials depending on the location in which the shadow play is being practiced, but all are generally made out of some kind of fabric. The fabric would need to be a light color, like white or cream, and would need to be see-through enough that the light could shine through it and make the shadows appear. This would usually be some kind of light cotton fabric. In order to put their screens up and make a stage for performances, the chosen fabric was most often stretched out and tied to bamboo poles. In some cultures, bamboo was also used to build other parts of a stage for a shadow play. If you want to make a shadow screen today, you might use something like a thin bedsheet or even a piece of parchment paper. Once the puppets were made and the screen was put together, puppeteers would be ready to perform. Shadow play was historically connected to religion and spirituality all throughout Asia, as the stories told in shadow plays were usually myths and legends, although some would recount tales of daily life or military victory as well. The religious connection to shadow plays meant that the shadow plays took place outside of temples or shrines. Shadow plays were also performed during special occasions and religious ceremonies, like funerals, births, or marriages. Music was also very important to shadow plays, and performances would include live music, played either in front of, behind, or beside the screen to make the play more dramatic. Shadow play is still practiced today in many parts of Asia and has been adopted by other countries like Japan and the Philippines. For the most part, modern shadow plays are used primarily for entertainment rather than for teaching or religious practices, but many of the ancient legends originally recounted by this art form are still told. Although the stories may have changed, shadow play is an important cultural practice that is still thriving today after 2,000 years. Thanks for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about this ancient and valuable folk tradition. Ready to put together a shadow play for yourself? You will find an Asian shadow puppet template in your Ancient and Medieval Adventures pack. Look in your instructions booklet to find out how to put these puppets together, and then find out how to put on your very own shadow play. Don't forget to check out the other videos, craft ideas, and more on our WordPress site.